Within the last 24 hours, Bitcoin has shown considerable strength, pushing back to 69,000. In today's video, we're going to go into massive detail discussing both the short-term and the macro charts. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. In today's video, we are going to be doing a detailed macro and short-term analysis, going over exactly what is happening on the short term, the recent bounce to 69,000, the current expectations in price direction, and how the price is shaping up from both a technical and a structural perspective. We'll be discussing where the price action is likely to go next and exactly the key levels you need to be paying attention to. We're also going to be taking a look at an analysis that no one has done before. This analysis is taking a look at why the RSI being in the overbought territory is not actually a bad thing for Bitcoin's macro price action, looking at historical macro data. So before we do get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us over on Telegram. It is the third link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop of cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. If you are interested in joining our trading channel, we post our trading setups with exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. Alongside this, you'll also go ahead and get access to our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our trade setup, our news, our daily video, and our help chat. If you are interested in access to all of that, go ahead and contact us in the pinned comment of the free channel. For more information, you can click both of these links. Let's go ahead, guys, and dive on in. So like we said, we have a very detailed video today going over a very interesting analysis, which we'll discuss later in today's video. But let's go ahead and start on that market data. So 24-hour volume is sitting neutral at 164 billion, down 0.4% in the last 24 hours. So not that much change. Looking at 24-hour liquidations, in the last 24 hours, we have seen 195 million in liquidations. This is down 15.94%, with 104 million coming from long positions and 91 million coming from short positions. Taking a brief look at Bitcoin's recent price action, we saw a nice consolidation around, again, our confluence point being the base of support at the 65.8 to 65.2 horizontal high time frame support range and the uptrend of the pennant formation. We did see a break of our neckline of resistance at 67,000, which we discussed in our video yesterday, and we talked about how the confluence of a breakout of the 3 points, the downward diagonal trend line, the horizontal neckline resistance, and the 50 EMA would result in a strong continuation to 69,000, which is exactly what we have seen. We'll come back and discuss this later in today's video. Moving over to the broader markets and the market data, the DXY have seen a considerable correction to retest that 2 to 3 week long uptrend we have gained are moving within. This is a representation of the current trajectory of price action and the overall uptrend the DXY is currently sitting within. A breakdown of this level will send the DXY into a downtrend. We would be expecting a correction back into this green zone, which is our local area of monthly support from February, March onwards at 103. Again, our neckline of resistance is sitting at this 105 mark. A breakout of 105 will push the DXY officially bullish for the first time in 2024, resulting in a strong continuation upwards. Now, a breakout of this level is the least likely scenario, while this neckline of resistance holds as the resistance. As of right now, the most expected direction is going to be a correction lower once this diagonal breaks, but it is very important to be aware of this potential in case it does develop. Moving over to the broad market, so the S&P 500 pretty red on the weekly, 21 hours remaining at 5,200, sorry. Again, looking very strong in the macro, and as we've said prior, any sort of correction that develops while the price action remains above that 5,000 mark should be considered healthy high time frame pullbacks. If we do see a correction taking us underneath this 5,000, that is when we're expecting a higher time frame pullback towards the prior 2021 all-time high, and this would be a macro reversal in the trend. Again, any correction that develops between the current price range and 5,000, should be considered healthy. Moving on to the Dow Jones, it is looking a little bit more weak than the S&P 500, breaking underneath that 39,000 trigger point. Again, a loss of 39,000 could result in a continuation back to 38k. We do have 21 hours remaining on that weekly candle to validate whether or not this level will be broken or whether or not we will hold this as support. If we do bounce back upwards here in the next 21 hours, we will have officially held this area of support. We do not expect a continuation lower. If we do close under this level, we will be expecting a continuation lower moving into the new week. Again, provided 38,000 holds as support, the macro direction is still up, and every correction should be considered healthy corrections within the market. It's only if 38,000 is lost would we expect a higher time frame correction to retest that yearly low point at, again, 36,600. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to Bitcoin. Before we do, a quick word from Bitget and BingX. I wanted to briefly interrupt today's video to discuss the two exchanges we use on this channel, Bitget and BingX. So which exchange should you sign up to? If you look to the right hand side of the screen, you're going to see the list of differences in relation to KYC requirements and the countries these exchanges offer services to. The first link down below being the Bitget link, and the second link down below being the BingX link. No matter which link you sign up to, you're going to get up to 15% discounts on your trading fees, up to $5,000 in trading rewards, and of course, you'll get access to every single MegaWhale exclusive bonus campaign we run on these exchanges. Alongside that, Bitget and BingX are incredibly similar. They are both ranked top 10 in terms of trading volume. They both have extensive liquidity pools and market pairs offering up to 125x leverage. And most importantly, they both offer protection funds for their users to protect you against any third-party hacks. So get started now and support the channel by clicking the links below. Thanks for listening. Okay team, let's go ahead and jump into Bitcoin. So we're going to start today's video discussing the short time frame price action, what is happening on the charts, what we are watching out for, and what you should be expecting next. So first and foremost, Bitcoin is moving within a pennant formation. Now a pennant formation is simply a pattern where we have, again, higher lows developing on the bottom side, okay, which results in a upward diagonal trend line, and we have lower highs developing on the upper side, our resistance side, which results in a downtrending diagonal resistance. And this results in a pattern which again converges, so it converges, it compresses over a period of time, so it is a consolidation pattern. And generally, pennants are neutral patterns. They are classified as neutral patterns. However, the directional entry within a pennant determines most likely the directional exit. It gives it a slight probable edge in that directional exit. Meaning, when we see a break or a move into a pennant from the bottom side up, there is going to be a slight bias towards a break upwards. When we are looking at directional moves for pennants, the directional break out of the trend determines the directional move. So if we want confirmation, we do need to see a break above this downtrending resistance, which would validate a break upwards and continuation in that direction of choice. A breakdown of the trend would result in a directional move toward the downside. So again, it's a neutral pattern. The directional breaks of pennants determine the directional continuation. However, the fact that we've moved into the pennant from the bottom side up results in a slightly greater probability that we do see that directional break toward the upside. Again, it's not significant. It's a small percentage difference. It is a small probability difference, but nevertheless, it's still something you have to be aware of. So overall, pennants are neutral patterns. If we do a measured move analysis of a pennant, we're going to be taking the width of the pennant from our first low to our second. Sorry, I've got the wrong thing out over here. The first low to the second, which is going to be our first high, so 0.1 to 0.2, and that is going to be applied to a projected breakout point. This gives us our measured move range. So assuming we broke out right over here vertically, this could take us to 85,000. If we broke toward the downside right here vertically, that could take us to around 50 to 52,000. Now, it is important to note that measured moves are not price targets. They are simply ranges of which the price action could move within while developing a new price structure. So it gives us a visible range or an expected range of potential movement. When we are looking at targets, we are still looking at our key areas of confluence based on our volume ranges, our high time frame and short-term levels of support, and of course our gaps in our volume profile. This is simply a hypothetical scenario or a range of price action we need to be aware of. Looking at the current price action, we do have an established pennant, as we said. We have got 1 point, we have got 2 points, we have got 3 points, we have got 4 points, and we have got 5 points. For those of you who know how I measure my patterns, we look for at least 5 points, which is 3 points on one side and 2 points on one side as a minimum. So we do have an established pennant. Zooming out to our structural levels, we're going to be taking a look at our lower level, our upper level, and our 2 mid levels of support and resistance. This is going to be our bearish trigger. This is going to be our bullish trigger. So bullish trigger being our macro bullish trigger, bearish trigger being our macro bearish trigger. Meaning if the price action breaks below this $60,000 level, that will clear the prior higher low. It will create a new low on the third point and will result in a macro directional continuation toward the downside. The same goes for our bullish trigger. If we're able to clear that initial high, breaking through that resistance, we should see a macro continuation upwards. If we were to measure or to classify the ranges of price action, this and above would be macro bullish. This and below would be macro bearish, or say high time frame bearish, okay? Below, again, this uptrend of the pennant and our horizontal support at 65.3 to 65.8 would be bearish. Above our 69K region to our 74K region would be bullish, and between these two areas of support and resistance is a neutral range of chop, a consolidation, a indecision zone. If we do take a look at this neutral zone on the higher time frame chart, the neutral zone on the higher time frame chart equates to the distance between the 2021 all-time high. So we're going to show you the 2021 all-time high, the 69K top, and the weekly high of that exact candle at 65.3K. So that distance between these 2 points is exactly the distance between these 2 points that we are consolidating between and bouncing around within. So where is Bitcoin going to go next, and what are we looking out for? So let's talk on the higher time frame first. If we want to see Bitcoin break upward here and continue higher, we need to see the momentum follow through. We need to see the RSI break out of this downtrending diagonal resistance according to the RSI, which will result in a positive momentum shift. Again, if we take a look at the RSI, this entire cluster of price action on the RSI is a derivative of the entire cluster of price action, which I've drawn a box around. This started since the 60K break-in. You can see it started in that 60K break-in. Since then, momentum has been decreasing. It has been falling as a representation of decreasing price and, more importantly, overall compression after a large surge in volatility toward the upside. So for Bitcoin to continue upward here, we need to see the momentum flip back positive, meaning we need to see that RSI break upwards. A upward break on the RSI increases the likelihood that this pennant will break upwards and will continue through 74,000. If we look at the RSI from a different perspective, or we look at absorption, we can see the price structure is very much bullish in terms of momentum. We have been creating, okay, lower lows on the RSI. So we've got a low over here, okay, and we have a lower low over here. And if we look at the price action, we can see we have created higher lows. That is an indication of absorption. That is an indication that buyers are still stepping in, holding that trend and pushing the price action upwards. So let's now take a look at our immediate price action. Immediate price action, Bitcoin is retesting that major area of resistance at 69,000. And like we said, 69,000 is going to be a short-term level of resistance, okay, as a break above 69,000 sends us into a bullish short-term territory to 74,000, that range of price action. So we know that 69,000 is an area of resistance. Will we break above 69,000? For us to break above 69,000, we need to see this RSI trend line, the dotted trend line, break upwards. This will result in a positive momentum shift. This is reflective of the price structure or the price action in this squared out box. We do have negative momentum. The price action is unlikely to break resistance with negative momentum. A break of this RSI will flip the price action positive, and we'll likely see the price action follow through to retest the upper level of this pennant's resistance. Until that occurs, yes, the price action has bounced nicely, but unfortunately, it means zilch. It means nothing. All we have seen is a range bounce, okay, is chop between an area of short-term neutral support and short-term neutral resistance. High time frame price structures, short time frame price structures have not been broken. We need to break above 69K to enter that bullish territory, and we need to set an RSI break upwards to continue upwards. And that isn't to take away from what has happened in the last 24 hours. If we can look at the last 24 hours, like we said at the start, we saw a fantastic thing. We saw a breakout of that short-term downtrend, that 4-day downtrend. We saw a break of the 50 EMA, and we saw a break of that neckline resistance. So the neckline resistance broken, and all that resulted in a move to 69K, as we said. But if we do want to see a continuation higher here, we need to see that validation on the short term with the RSI break. So how can the bears now take control? As we know, if we're looking at the short-term price action, so the distance between, okay, we're looking at the range between our range low, okay, and our upper level of resistance, we are of course above our short-term resistance. We are of course in the bullish territory. So this is going to be bullish, and below here is going to be bearish. So even if we see a correction back down to this range, this is going to be a major area of support, which could result in a bounce from. It is only if we break below 67,000 would we then result in a correction to retest the pennant's uptrend. So yes, the shorter time frame on the immediate time frame is bullish, but no, if we zoom out, it doesn't yet appear to have the strength to push higher. Now that can change in a moment's notice. If the RSI is able to break just a small bit higher, we will see that price action follow through. So it is safe to remain bullish, provided on the short term we remain above 67,000. Expect a continuation higher to retest that upper band. If we do break the RSI, expect a continuation even higher. So overall, looking good. Let's go ahead now and jump over to the macro. And there's this one chart I want to talk about, and then we're going to end the video. And a lot of people are saying, Whale, are you worried that Bitcoin is overbought on the weekly chart? Are you worried that Bitcoin's RSI is significantly overbought? And I had a look into this, and initially my answer is no, and I can explain no from a technical perspective, but a lot of people don't really understand that in detail, so I figured let's go ahead and talk about it from a statistical perspective as to why I'm not worried. So what I did, I looked at the last 10 or so years of Bitcoin's price action. I've charted out every single zone of price action that Bitcoin has been in while the price or the RSI is above 80, which is above 70, which is going to be putting us in this near overbought to overbought territory. What we have shown you is these green zones are the periods of price action where the RSI is above that 70 to 80 range. And again, the red zones is going to be the times of which we saw the top occur while the price of the RSI was above 70 to 80. So the top is the red zones. Okay, we have one red zone here, one red zone here. That is when the top has occurred for Bitcoin while the RSI has been above 70 to 80 zone. And the green zones is when the top has not occurred while the RSI has been above that 70 to 80 overbought territory. What we can see during the historic price action of Bitcoin, a considerable more time Bitcoin has spent bullish while overbought on the RSI than it has marked the top. If we look at the dates, we can see 977 out of 1,012 days when Bitcoin was above the overbought territory on the RSI did not mark the top for Bitcoin. In fact, in many of these days, we saw aggressive continuations upwards even when the RSI was falling. Again, the RSI on the weekly is quite lagging. What matters is what happens in the short term. So it can be an inadequate representation of what is happening. And like we said, just because we see exhaustion with momentum, and that's all it is, falling RSI is exhaustion. Just because we see exhaustion, it doesn't reflect weakness all the time. We can see exhaustion Like we are seeing with the short term over here, we can see exhaustion represented by a falling RSI. However, the overall trend for the price action is still up, and we expand that to a macro chart. That is kind of what we see. If we have absorption, if we have strong buying going on and creating these lower highs as we push upwards, it doesn't matter if we see exhaustion, because eventually the exhaustion will dissipate. So moving back to that monthly or that weekly chart over here, out of the 1,012 days, 36 days marked the top for Bitcoin. That brings us to a chance, probabilities, 96.54% chance that any particular day spent in the overbought territory on the weekly of the RSI is not the top for Bitcoin. So when people say, are you concerned because the RSI is overbought? Are we going to see a top? My answer is there's a 3.45% chance that any day we're above the RSI on 80, it is the top, and there is a 96.54% chance it is not. So from excluding from a technical perspective, excluding from a theory perspective of what momentum is and how it works, purely from a historical statistical perspective, it is massively less likely that when the RSI is above the 80 or in that overbought territory, we will see a top on any particular day, then we will not. So I hope that makes sense to people who don't quite understand momentum. Looking at this data statistically, maybe it makes more sense when you look at the statistics behind probabilities, and more should I say the probabilities behind certain particular moves. Anyway guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. We'll catch you guys in our next video on Sunday. We'll see you then. Cheers.